Hi, I'm Judith Dreyer. Thank you for joining me for this podcast series, The Holistic Nature of Us. I invite you to a journey with me into a better understanding of the concepts behind our holistic nature and how that ties us directly to the natural world around us. My intention is to be your guide for this half hour as we begin seeing our world with fresh eyes, gaining more understanding and learning how we can connect the dots in practical ways that we are nature and nature's in us. I feature a broad range of guests deeply concerned about the environmental issues of our time and more, authors and educators, practitioners and others whose passion for this earth and for all species help us create sustainable bridges of understanding. These folks are innovators, action-oriented, creating solutions in a variety of ways that honors us and the planet's holistic nature. I am honored to share their stories, their projects, and their passion with all of you. Today, I'm delighted to introduce you to the Mission Monarch Coordinator, which is a citizen science-based program documenting monarchs' reproductive process. It is part of an international research and education effort aimed at saving the migratory populations of this endangered species. Welcome, Andre-Phillipe. It's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. So let's dig into this very timely topic today. Tell us, first of all, about yourself and how you got interested not only in insects, but also with this program.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm a biologist. So I studied biology because I was initially interested in plants, but as I went further into my studies, I came to realize that the links between plants and insects are very important, and the diversity of insects is way higher than that of the plants. So there's more things to discover. So that's how I got into insects. And after my master's, I got that job at the Insectarium. So I'm the Mission Monarch coordinator since 2 years now. And it's a very interesting experience professionally, because I do some education, because I had to teach the people about our program and about raising awareness about the monarch in general. And I also do some research. So there's an interesting equilibrium, in my opinion, in that position, and it gives me the opportunity to collaborate with researchers and other people in all 3 countries of North America. So it's really motivating.
Oh, it sounds exciting, because the monarchs aren't just limited to their migration. They're all over the place on our continent, correct?
Yeah. So we have 2 populations of monarchs in North America, one west of the Rockies and one east of the Rockies. And the biggest population is the east migratory population, and it migrates between Canada and Mexico. So if you want to study the monarch, and if you want to help it go through the threats it faces right now, you got to work with people from all 3 countries to implement efficient conservation actions.
Oh, that's interesting. So that takes you into different climates. It must take you into different needs of the monarch. Is that correct?
Yeah. So they have specific needs all along their migratory route. In northern United States and southern Canada, that's where they go to breed, to reproduce. So they need their host plant, they need milkweed, because it's the only plant on which the monarchs lay their eggs, and it's the only plant that the caterpillar eats. So they need that plant, they need a lot of it. So this is what they need in the north, while in the south, in Mexico, they need their forest there with that specific fir tree on which they settle, waiting for the winter to pass. And between those forests in Mexico and their breeding habitats in northern United States and southern Canada, well, they need nectar because during the migration they need fuel, right?
Right.
To get to one place to another. So all different needs all along their migratory routes.
And so do they have favorite plants for the nectar? Because we always hear about how important milkweed is, but do they have other plants that are just as important for nectar, for fuel?
Yeah. So yeah, if you want to create a habitat for the monarch, you need the milkweed. But the thing is, milkweed doesn't bloom, so it doesn't produce nectar all summer long. So the idea is to have a mix of plants, ideally native plants, that will bloom during all the summer, and they're well, yeah. So you need this diversity. So I'm thinking, for example, of a goldenrod, which is super important, especially at the end of the summer or at the beginning of the fall when the monarchs are preparing for their migration, for their fall migration, because that plant is flowering at that time. There are several others nectaring plants that are good for them. And of course, they vary depending on the region in which you are. So the plants that we have here in Montreal, Quebec, are not the same that you'll find in some United States of the United States. So yeah, depending on your context or regional context, species are gonna vary. But wherever you are, you need a diversity of plants to have nectar availability all summer long.
Well, that's interesting because we do see them on plants other than milkweed. But again, I think there might be a little misperception that, yes, what I'm getting at is what I find in my travels is that most people don't realize that the eggs in the caterpillar needs specific plant that's very different from the adult butterfly.
Yeah, true. So the caterpillar needs milkweed, but the adult is gonna drink nectar from whatever plant that produces nectar.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then what you're saying is a good native wildflower diversity is like the best choice for those of us in all the 50 states that southern Canada. I don't know what the Southwest offers, but they have their wildflowers too, and so the monarch needs that for fuel to make their journey to Mexico. So tell us what's happening today with their migratory patterns and their species has severely declined. If you could talk about that, I think everybody would be interested.
Yeah, sure. So both North American migratory populations of monarch have been declining in the past 20, 30 years. The Western population have declined by over 90%, while the Eastern population declines by approximately 80%. So in both cases, it's a huge decline. It's very alarming. And we consider that there are three main reasons for that, three main drivers. So I'm going to talk about the drivers for the Eastern population.
Okay.
The first one is wood logging, tree logging in their overwintering sites in Mexico. So there was an industry for tree logging there until we realized that it was a problem for the monarchs, and then it became illegal. So now we consider that that it's not a problem anymore. I mean, there's no more tree logging there going on, but the trees that were cut a few decades ago, it resulted in habitat loss that still has some effects right now, even if we don't cut those trees anymore. So this is one thing, tree logging in Mexico. Second is the breeding habitat loss. So there are less milkweeds. There is less milkweed that there used to be, and this is due to the use of some herbicides associated with GMO crops. So I'm thinking of glyphosate, essentially, which is very efficient, and it got widely used by farmers at the end of the 90s. And this is, it's associated to the decline of the milk. So it grows very well in open habitats, such as agricultural landscapes. So when you put glyphosate there, it kills the milkweed. So less breeding habitats for the monarchs. And the third main driver is climate change. And climate change impacts monarchs in a variety of ways. One of them is that there is more meteorological events than there were before. I'm thinking of tornadoes or hurricanes or droughts, especially during their migration. So if there's a drought during the migration, flowers are not gonna be producing nectar, or at least not as much nectar as they should. So less fuel for the monarchs. And of course, if monarchs get into a hurricane or a tornado during their migration, lots of them get killed. So it's getting more and more difficult to get to Mexico for the winter because of climate change.
Yeah, let's go back to number 2. That seems to be hitting the press more and more these days, that our use of herbicides, and in particular a glyphosate type product, causing damage to our insects, and in particular we're talking about the monarch butterfly today. Do you see any easing up of that?
Well, some organizations are working along with farmers to raise their awareness and invite them to adopt more ecology friendly practices regarding herbicides, but also insecticides. There are some insecticides, for example, the neonicotinoids that are thought to be causing the decline of the bee populations. So some organizations are suggesting, for example, a certification that farmers can adopt, and then they commit to use less of those products in their fields, apply them only when needed, for example, or in specific periods when it's less harmful for populations in the wild. So it's a long way because those agricultural practices are hard to change, because that's how the whole industry is working right now. So it's a big machine. So if you want to change the machine only a little bit, you need to put a lot of effort. And yes, some organizations are doing that effort, but it's taking time. Yeah.
Is it going to take more time than we have? I mean, if these populations have seriously declined, you're talking 80 to 90%. Do we have enough time to save them?
Yeah, that's the big question, right? We're not positive, but anyway, we still think that there is time, yes, and we what we say is we need to work on all the aspects of all the problems of the decline. So farming is one. With Mission Monarch, the program I'm coordinating, we're focusing more on breeding habitats. So monitoring habitats to know where they are and if Monarch uses them. We are also inviting people to create habitats. So we are confident that if we work on all those aspects of the Monarch issue, we're going to get results. So we may not go back to the numbers of monarchs that we used to have, decades ago, but we are confident that we still have time to save those migratory populations, even if we don't reach those historic numbers.
Mm. Well, that's interesting. Well, you're an insect guy. You studied insects. What is the primary role of the monarch, from your perspective, in our environment?
Yeah, so monarchs, like other butterflies, they are pollinators. So this is what they do. Otherwise, other than its ecological role, the monarch is a symbol, a cultural symbol. Lots of people have good memories with monarch because it's a big butterfly. It's aesthetic, so people likes it. People think it's a beautiful butterfly, which is what I think too. So people relate to that insect, and it's not all insects that have that chance to relate with people so easily. So it's been used as a conservation tool and as a collaboration tool. As I said earlier, scientists working on the monarch come from Mexico, the US, and Canada, and they work together. So without that species, those collaborations would not be possible. So yes, it's a pollinator in the wild, but it's also has an importance for us humans, as social beings.
Oh, I think you're right. It evokes poetry and novels, and it excites us on some level. And I think that's why it's hit the airwaves so much, is because the decline makes us sad. I hope it makes us not just sad, but wakes us up to doing something on a more local level. Everybody can look at anybody who has some kind of land space, a front yard, a backyard, can add, milkweed to their property as well as wildflowers. I'm a big promoter of turning lawn into more meadowland or more natural landscapes. In fact, I've written a book about it. And that to me is critical to helping some of these insect species survive, because we need them.
Yeah, I totally relate with that.
Yeah.
So at the individual scale, we can, as you just said, we can create habitats in our yard. We can also help scientists by sharing our observations. So this is what we do with Mission Monarch, but there are several projects going on, citizen science projects or programs, in which scientists are inviting people to take pictures of what they see and count the number of milkweed they have in their yard, or how many they just saw by the bike lane, and look for monarchs there. And this is actual data, super relevant data that is being used by us scientists to inform the people who do conservation, to inform conservation decisions actually.
Well, that's interesting. So you're saying that a Master Gardener program, for example, could collaborate with you as well as the individual, for example. So I could go out in my yard, I could count the milkweeds that are there, and if I happen to catch a monarch, I can hopefully get a picture of it to send it in. So where would I send all that data in?
Yeah, well, we have a website, and all it works with our website. So it's mission-monarch.org, and you have lots of things on there. So you have identification ID sheets to help you identify the monarch, the caterpillar as well. We have guides to identify milkweed plants because there are several different species of milkweed. And it's all there. And this is also where you want to share your observations. So what we need to know is where you saw milkweeds and or monarchs, when it was, and what did you see? So how many milkweeds? Were there any monarchs? If yes, how many? And what were they? Were they adults, eggs, caterpillars, or chrysalis? And that's it.
Oh, okay. So that's really not that complicated, because if you have a milkweed area in your yard with some milkweed plants, that's a great way to take children out and have them help you keep an eye on the leaves and the flowers and see what they can see at the same time that mom or dad is, bringing the camera out and trying to take photographs. And I can see young folks getting involved with their science projects too on this level. So it's basically go to your website, mission-monarch.org. You have identification sheets, not only for the butterflies, but for the milkweed species. And then folks can submit to your site the when, the where, and the how manys briefly to you. And so you must be collecting information from all over the continent, right?
Yeah, exactly. And on our website, you can see all the other observations that were made since the program was launched. So there's a big interactive maps there, so you can see, for example, you can go there to look if you don't know where to find milkweed, you can go there and see if someone did monitor milkweed in your area. And how many were there, and this is, you have the whole map for the whole continent. So
that's interesting. I know I've gone to your website, and I think anything that puts things in a 1, 2, 3 format is easy to follow. If it's easy to follow, that means we'll take some action, because we're busy people. So I like the way that's set up, and you have a great map for recent missions on there and the locations of where they're at, and it's a satellite map. And then you have a beautiful photo gallery that has it has the dates on it, so you can see the recent photographs as well as from when you started the program. So that's really interesting, Andre-Phillipe, the way you've got it designed.
Yeah, well, we try to design it as user friendly as possible, so that it's easy for people to use to use our website, while producing data that are still relevant for research. So we try to reach that equilibrium between simplicity and relevance, and we think we have something that works well.
Mm-hmm. Good. I'm so glad for your success, and you've been 3 years doing this, correct?
Yeah, this summer is our third summer of data collection, and it's going pretty well. We've been doubling our number of participants each summer, and we're looking forward to see the results of this summer, and the more people participate, the better it is.
Yeah, it is, and I can only encourage my listeners to do the same thing. Find some way to look for the Monarch, and you have a lovely video there about your mission. You have an easy button that says submit data. It's very good. And you also have a newsletter, so people can sign up for that. And I know folks that deeply care about the environment would really enjoy and utilize your resources. So all I can say is, thank you again. You've given us several tips. I don't know if you have anything else to add, not necessarily just from a monarch point of view, but you're into insects. Is there 3 tips or other tips that you'd like to offer our listeners today?
Well, other than creating habitats and sharing observations, we, as citizens, we also have power to influence the people who we elect, right?
Right.
So I encourage people to vote following their environmental values, or is that how les valeurs? To vote for what's important for them, of course. And at the municipal scale, there is, for example, that mayor's Monarch pledge. So it's a commitment that mayors can take by adapting the way they manage the city in ways. So there are over 20 actions that cities can take to help the monarch. Of course, it's the mayor's Monarch pledge, but those actions also have an impact on all the other pollinators that share the same habitats. So helping the monarch, in other words, is not just helping the monarch, but it's helping all the other species of insects, but other animals, plants, whatever you can think of that share those habitats, it's all helping them,
Right. No, yeah, 'cause it's inclusive. Again, that's our holistic nature. It's inclusive. It's not exclusive. So when if we choose on a personal level to take up the mission of the Monarch, for example, it has other consequences, and hopefully those individual efforts connect into a bigger picture and strengthen a species, but it strengthens other species as well. And as you mentioned, it's not just our insects, but it's our plants, it's the soil, it's all the critters that live among the plants and dwell there, have shelter there, have food there, raise their babies there. It's an inclusive environment, not an exclusive one. So thank you. I think that's really helpful. So again, just before we sign off, do you have anything else to add? And please give us your contact information one more time.
Sure. So it's always time to take part in Mission Monarch. I mean, all summer long, people can share their observations, but if people have to choose one moment to do so, I would suggest that it is during the International Monarch Monitoring Blitz, which is an upcoming event. It's going to be launched on July 27, and it lasts until August 4th. So this is 10 days during which we invite people to put a special monitoring effort during those 10 days. And I'm organizing this event with collaborators in the United States. So the University of Minnesota with their Monarch larva monitoring program, also the the Xerces Society on the West Coast, the CONAMP in Mexico, and the Environment Canada also. And the idea of this event is to get as much data as possible to know what's going on during the summer, because monarch populations have been estimated based on surveys during the winter when they are in Mexico. And for a reason that we don't know yet, it's not always correlated to what we see in the summer. So we need data in the summer, and this is why we're doing that blitz every year. It's to get a comparable picture of what's going on with the monarch during the summer. So I invite people to participate between July 27 and August 4th. If they have any question regarding this, again, monarch.org, and I can also be reached by email. So my email is xdrapan@ville.montreal.ca. So it's maybe easier for the email part.
We'll post. We'll post the email, and we'll post the information again about the mission-monarch.org again. And I have your email, so I can make sure that that's in there clearly. I usually do a transcript for each podcast for my listeners too. Sometimes it's a lot easier to scan it through and get the invaluable information that way. Well, Andre-Phillipe, thank you again. This is an exciting protocol. I encourage all my listeners to participate in any way that you can. Please like and share these podcasts too. Let me know what you are doing for the monarchs in your little or big neck of the woods. I appreciate it. So thank you again, Andre-Phillipe, for your talk, your practical advice. This is Judith Dreyer. I am the author of At the Gardenscape book and blog. My book is available through my website, which is www.judithdreyer.com. That's a D as in David, R-E-Y-E-R, as well as several distribution arms such as Amazon, Nook, Goodreads, and more. And please like and share them. Let's support each other, especially this monarch conservation effort, and get the word out. And remember, now is the time for practical action and profound interchange so we value our world again. Enjoy your day.